Y'all know how much of a fan of The Expanse I am. I've been talking about The Expanse, the TV series, forever because I really felt like it was the Mass Effect TV series. So what if they
Mhm.
made a game about Mass Effect? That would be awesome. Actually, yeah, Telltale has their Expanse series. Telltale has an Expanse series of games, kind of a season. I think it's going to be 5 or 6 episodes. I'm talking about the first three here, um, and they're sort of a prequel to some of the later events in the show. It stars, I think Kara G is the name of the actress, and she's Kamina Drummer, who is really one of my favorite characters in the whole TV series, and really a fan favorite character on the show. Um, so it's Telltale. It is um, yeah, Mass Effect, the show, the game. It's by Deck Nine. Actually, Deck Nine was a developer in this, so you know them from such hits as Life is Strange, and so they take elements of both Telltale, which is the real kind of the choice, and you still do get some of those. They'll remember this later aspects, but only like really specific moments. But then you also get the pedigree from Deck Nine and their understanding of gameplay and sort of action and moving around and things like that. So it it feels like I made the joke, but yeah, it feels like a adventure game version of what I really love about Mass Effect, which is the human to human or the character to character interaction. Sorry, they're aliens in Mass Effect. They're all humans here. The character to character interactions and the character to environment interactions. I don't mean like shooting stuff and blowing stuff up type of interaction. I mean like characters are scouting and they're scavenging for stuff and they're interacting with the world around them to find out things. It's got a great plot. Again, it's almost predictable in a way because this is because it's a prequel. Kamina is she gets essentially a task by her captain and ends up finding out things are greater than they seem, which is kind of the typical story for these types of games in general. But the acting and the VA, especially in this, really bind it together in a lot better ways than I've typically felt in adventure games. In fact, this reminds me of the first Walking Dead game that I played from Telltale, like that very original Telltale game where it's not as groundbreaking, but it really feels fresh from a standpoint of, I haven't played a adventure game like this in a long time. One thing I really liked about this is there are like some cool zero G moments. There's some cool walking through different types of spaceships and uh, cruisers and things like that. I mean, if you're a fan of the show, which I think this is definitely aimed at folks who enjoy the TV series, um, you'll recognize a lot of these locations and you'll recognize a lot of the design aspects, which I really appreciated. Like there's a shot here. I'm going to pause it real quick. Um, the suits all
I love the
match
suits.
all match the suits from the TV series. Stuff like now, this is a nerd thing that I look at: chairs, seats that are in the TV series. The way the screens are angled back towards the characters, like it's very authentic to how someone would function in this situation. So the Expanse as a TV series really nailed the actual science aspect of it, and they've translated that into the game extremely well. So yeah, it's so good. It's really well written. It's got a great story. Like um, because of how they're kind of linking some of the gameplay elements with the narrative, like the choices. Um, it flows fairly quickly. It doesn't. It's not like it's not a short game, but it definitely flows well enough where it feels like a episode of TV. Like you're watching an episode of a really enjoyable episode of television where everything is just hitting the pace. You're not left like jumping across a big giant expanse between starships. It's like, okay, I gotta jump from this ship to this one, then I gotta jump from this one to this one. No, there's none of those types of stupid moments. Everything really does feel like it's meant to happen, and I do like that level of sort of you know choosing, or the development team really choosing what those little battles are and how they're guiding the players along, because you don't want to give, in a game like this, which is so narrative focused as all of these adventure games are, if you have too much openness, then you start to lose the punch of that story. So you do have to scale back some of that. So they did a good job. They made me feel like I'm doing things on my own in a lot of cases. Like one of the opening scenes is you're walking around the kind of your the ship that you're stationed on, and you're kind of seeing things, and it's like, oh, I wonder what this picture is over here, and I wonder what this what this little thing is in the corner. And kind of as gamers, we're going to be inquisitive and start to kind of scour around, but all of those are things are placed in very specific reasons, so that if we see that picture there, we're actually getting a little bit of insight into someone, and then we'll be able to interact with them a little bit differently because we saw that picture, not because it's built into the game as a reaction. It's like, oh, you looked at my picture earlier. No, it's because we saw this photo and realized, okay, that's her husband, so that's why she's acting a certain way. But I wouldn't have found that out unless I looked at the picture. But because the picture is placed where it is, the developers knew we're going to look at it. So it's really smart in a lot of those elements. Visually, it's fantastic. The animations are kind of hit or miss. There's some stiffness to it, but it's a freaking, lighting is great. It's so freaking smooth. I was playing it at like 60 FPS, and it was just freaking gorgeous. The audio is fantastic. I mentioned the VA, Kara G, does an awesome job, but I think a lot of the other voice actors do great work too. Yeah, it's hard to really describe more of it because it's The Expanse. Like, if you've ever watched The Expanse, this really does feel like an episode of The Expanse. There are never more than like 6 characters in an episode of The Expanse, and this captures that. It's a couple hours or so long, without giving away too much of the time. And I think they nailed the landing. Again, these are the 3 episodes that I'm able to talk about, and I'm pretty stoked to have gone through it. As a fan of The Expanse, I mean, we've been looking for more. Unfortunately, the show kind of ended before they got to the latter books, but it's great. I'm digging it, and I love the characters that are in this. I love the voice acting.
So, I guess it's just covering the politics that happened before the book, because they can't really cover what actually
No, so it's
happens
telling
in
her
the
story.
books.
So it's really about her. It's how she goes
Yeah.
from being this sort of, second in command or so, all the way to holding a position of power within the OPA in the series. And so that, I think, it's more about flushing out her story. It does tie in some of those politics, but you don't find that out. At least these first 3 episodes don't tell you that, oh, this is stuff that's going to affect the TV series. Right now, you're kind of guided to say, this is stuff that's going to affect her growth as a character. How does that later on affect the TV series? Play the game and find out. But yeah, it's cool. I'm enjoying. I think the full game is releasing. I think the last episode is like October supposed to release or something like that. But yeah, I dig it. I dig it, y'all.
What's so interesting to me about The Expanse is everything about the show, or like the series in general, does a great job of like covering the big secret of the
Yeah,
series.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Hey, there are the big secret of the series. If you watch any episode of The Expanse, is that there's alien goo. So the alien goo in like the very first season, but the first season of the show is so smartly written because it's actually sort of part Mass Effect, yeah, like space opera, but it's also part like noir. There's a whole
Yep.
lot of noir elements, like detective noir
Because
elements.
it's got the 2
It's
characters.
got 2 characters. Miller is fantastic, and that they stuff has to combine because they, the way they wanted to tell the story was really sort of kind of coming together, to whatever. But Yeah, it's great. It's space opera level stuff, and this is just giving a lot more depth to a character that uh,
That's
became a
neat.
really strong favorite in the show. So yeah, The Expanse. Check it out. Check it out. We got.